In Andalusia, Spain, our protagonist Eva Silva is a 19-year-old orphan. The nuns brought her body to the convent. Currently, she is dead, but the old nun didn't want to tell the other nuns the cause of Eva's death. Perhaps it will be mentioned in later storylines. Additionally, she was a quadriplegic before she died, only able to lie in bed all day. The old nun handed Eva's body over to a monk, after which she drove away from the orphanage. After that, some warrior nuns carried a heavily injured companion to the convent. The injured person was Shannon, the leader of the warrior nuns. She was wounded in a recent battle, but in any case, ordinary things couldn't possibly harm Shannon. Soon after, a doctor was also called. After examining her, the doctor didn't think Shannon could hold on much longer. Among the nuns and warriors, Mary had the deepest relationship with Shannon. She couldn't accept that Shannon would soon die. Shannon also knew she was about to pass away, so she gave Mary her necklace. More importantly, it was time to take the halo from her back and transfer it to her successor. At this moment, gunshots rang out from outside. The pursuers would soon break in. The doctor quickly took out special instruments, turned Shannon's body over, while Mary listened to her last words. When the doctor removed the halo, Shannon also stopped breathing. When the doctor wanted to hand the holy halo to another warrior, the door was blown open. The enemy invaded, so the doctor escaped with the holy halo. She ran to the room where Eva's body was kept. The situation was urgent. She inserted the halo into Eva's back. At this moment, the enemies also caught up, and the doctor immediately fought them. But what no one noticed was that Eva, after receiving the halo, was slowly being resurrected. Eva didn't seem to understand what was happening. Even stranger, her limbs seemed to have feeling. At this time, the enemy had killed the doctor and was advancing towards Eva. A red smoke cloud hovered over the enemy's head, which greatly confused her. It seemed there was a demon inside, and this red smoke controlled the enemy's actions. Eva picked up the halo-removing tool that the doctor had tossed aside, then stepped forward and struck a blow that instantly turned the enemy to sand. The red smoke also flew away. Eva felt as if these things were not real, thinking she was just dreaming, and then she wandered out of the convent. Out on the streets, she remembered what it would be like now if she had died. Eva even thought that everything before her was her imagination, but it was too real. No problem. The ability to walk on her own made Eva very happy. Eva's frenzied appearance made many passing guys think she was very drunk. They took the initiative to chat her up with ill intentions. While Eva was talking to these men, she was hit by a passing pickup truck, but she phased right through the wall into a sporting goods store. The pain in her leg made her realize this was not a dream, but the wound on her leg was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Able to phase through walls and having superhuman self-healing abilities, Eva thought she had superpowers. She changed her clothes and went back to the streets. She wanted to know why all this was happening. At this time, Father Vincent had arrived at the convent. He came to see why everything had happened tonight. Shannon and the nuns were following his orders to retrieve something, but they were ambushed by a group of private mercenaries. The monk also reported something even stranger to Father Vincent. The monk determined that the doctor had placed the holy halo into Eva's body before she died. Afterwards, Eva returned from the dead and left the convent. The other warrior nuns didn't understand why the doctor would put the halo into a corpse. The answer was given by Father Vincent. Human skin and tissue can suppress the unique energy properties of the holy halo. Therefore, no one knew the holy halo had the ability to resurrect the dead. Furthermore, how could it work on an ordinary person? This made Father Vincent and everyone else interested in Eva's identity. At this time, Eva had returned to her room at the orphanage. This greatly surprised the boy who shared the room with her, because Eva, who was previously a quadriplegic, had become a normal person. Then, Eva told the boy all the strange things that had happened to her. The boy was very smart and listed some abilities for Eva. But in the end, the boy gave Eva a piece of advice. She couldn't let people who knew her see her in her current state. Coming back from the dead was not something people would accept. Before people started to find out everything about Eva, she needed to make the most of this experience. So Eva followed the boy's advice. Not long after, Father Vincent also came to the orphanage to investigate Eva's origin. She was a foreigner who came here with her mother when she was only 7. There was a car accident that caused her mother's death. The old nun saw that her mother was also a Catholic, so she brought Eva here. The next morning, Eva wandered the streets all night. However, she didn't dare to sleep, afraid that when she woke up, she would be back to how she was before. As she wandered into the villa of a rich man, Eva met JC and some of his partners. The villa wasn't JC's. Their villa's owner lived in Saudi Arabia. They only came to this villa once or twice a year, so this group only stayed for a few days while the owner was away. Ava thought their lifestyle was very good. The thing is, Ava thought JC was handsome, so she joined them. In the warrior nuns convent, Father Vincent asked Mary to distribute photos of Ava to every cleric in the diocese to find her. But Mary wondered, if they found her, would they take back the holy halo? If they took it back, Ava would die again. In the evening, Ava and JC attended a festival dance. At that moment, she saw the red smoke again. At the same time, Father Vincent went to a bar and ordered a drink, but not to drink it. The bartender quickly noticed the priest was worried. He asked the priest to talk about detoxification. Father Vincent said demons are among us. Some are ethereal monsters that feed on our souls or do evil things. At this moment, Ava happened to see the red smoke surrounding the heads of a couple. When it spotted Ava, she quickly fled. Father Vincent said that the dragons are beasts from hell, named Tarask. One swing of its claw could slice a person in two. Then a monster from hell appeared, searching for the holy halo on Shannon's body, but couldn't find it. Morning came. Ava had slept soundly all night. Trying to stretch out her arm, it turned out she could still move. She hadn't returned to her previous quadriplegic state. At the same time, Mary went to the pier where the nuns were attacked, trying to find some clues. The fact that they were ambushed had never happened before. Mary found a custom-made bullet with exquisite craftsmanship. Immediately, she knew who to go see. Father Vincent and the nuns went to the convent where the murdered sister's body was kept. The sister here was dead. Behind the sister's body, there was blood everywhere. Judging by the wounds, it was clear they were not man-made. As Father Vincent had said, there were two supernatural forces. One was the demon, the red smoke that Ava saw. It had no body and could not cause physical harm to humans. Another type of demon was the dragon, Tarask, also a beast from hell, but for over a century, there were no records of a dragon appearing. But judging by the wounds of the deceased monks and peasants, it had indeed been the cause. The halo must have been exposed for too long, so it came here to drag it down to hell. Therefore, everyone realized they had to find Ava before the dragon did. At an archaeological site in Morocco, Salvius and Christian of Arq excavated a shield that had been lost to the church since the Third Crusade. In Father Vincent's office, he and Beatrice were looking through all the documents about the Tarask. They discovered that only the halo bearer combined with the divinium sword could defeat the Tarask. When Beatrice asked what would happen if the Tarask took the halo back to hell, Cardinal DiTi also arrived. He answered Beatrice's question. If that happened, hell would rise and heaven would fall. All of humanity would suffer. The loss of the halo caused concern in the church, so DiTi gave Father Vincent one day to find the halo. At this time, Mary had arrived at the place where the bullet was manufactured. She found the buyer of this bullet. Mary tried to ask the person everything she wanted to know with a little bit of violence. At the same time, Ava was still living in the luxurious villa with JC. Coincidentally, a tech media conference was being held tonight by the tech company Arq. Cardinal DiTi was also at this party. He was engaged in a lively conversation with Christian. It turned out that Christian had worked in the church as the Pope's archivist for 30 years. He and the cardinal were also old acquaintances. DiTi believed Christian had stolen the church's secrets and revealed them to the Arq. The cardinal did not hide his suspicions. Of course, Christian denied the cardinal's accusation. So, the relationship between the two might not be as good as imagined. During the Science and Technology Achievement Exhibition, Salvius introduced the world's first quantum portal to everyone, and she said this technology was based on a superconducting alloy. This alloy kept the Higgs boson stable for up to a minute. Cardinal DiTi immediately reacted that this could be related to divinium, but Christian insisted that Salvius had mined the divinium from ancient ruins herself. Later, Cardinal DiTi went to see Dr. Salvius to reason with her. He argued that her so-called superconducting alloy should be the property of the church, and the artifacts she excavated were part of sacred relics. The religions hoped that Salvius could return all these things to the church, but Salvius thought it was time for people to know about the existence of divinium. This could benefit the whole world. In short, both had their own reasons. No one could convince the other. Cardinal DiTi saw that he couldn't persuade Salvius, so he issued a warning. Divinium is a power that humans cannot understand and control. Improper behavior will bring disaster to everyone. Ava and JC not only ate and drank together, they also stole a security guard's access card to enter the Arq company and tour around. At this moment, Ava saw the shield that Salvius had excavated earlier. The shield also lit up when Ava appeared. At first, she thought the shield was just glowing normally. In fact, it had sensed the halo in her body. In the warrior nuns convent, the nuns had found Ava's whereabouts through the entire surveillance network and facial recognition system. Father Vincent immediately took the nuns to find her quickly. Mary also attended the ARQ Tech press conference, her purpose being to find the mercenaries who had attacked the nuns at the pier that night. The mastermind was named Mark Reddy. He was talking to Christian about compensation for the soldiers who had died that night, but Christian was not a generous boss. As a result, Mark Reddy was asked by security to leave the premises. When Mark Reddy wasn't paying attention, he was suddenly attacked by Mary. Meanwhile, Ava and JC were still standing in front of the glowing shield, whispering words of love. Just then, an accomplice outside sent a message reminding them that someone was entering. It turned out to be Dr. Salvius leading guests on a tour of the company. By the time they reached the door of the room, Ava and JC had already left. The glowing shield gradually dimmed, which quite surprised Salvius. She realized someone had broken in and immediately asked security to find the intruder. While fleeing, Ava saw a boy locked in a room. She didn't listen to JC's advice and decided to rescue the boy. However, at that moment, he had disappeared. Ava wanted to open the door to this room, but accidentally triggered the alarm system. The guards quickly discovered her, so she had to flee through another passage. While two security guards were blocking her, they ran away in fear because they saw something. When Ava turned back, she saw a Tarask emerging from a ball of light. This also frightened Ava, and she happened to hide in the room where the shield was kept. Fortunately, at this moment, Father Vincent and the warrior nuns also arrived. Mary opened fire on the Tarask with her handgun. However, it didn't bother, just trying every way to chase after Ava. So they launched a fierce attack. At this moment, the halo on Ava's back glowed brightly. This caused the entire Tarask to light up, and it was immediately sent back to hell. Ava was scared and wanted to leave this place quickly, but the nuns gave her a sedative. When she woke up, she vaguely heard two nuns beside her discussing whether to remove the halo from her. Sister Lilith was to be the next to wear it. When she fully regained consciousness, she was so frightened by everything around her that she started levitating. This greatly surprised the two nuns beside her. They had never seen a previous halo bearer with such an ability. Then, Ava showed them her ability to phase through objects, falling under the bed. Beatrice immediately told Ava to calm down because the halo would react to her emotions. But Ava didn't understand what Beatrice was saying. Beatrice's persuasion didn't calm her down, but made her even more tense. Immediately, a power burst from Ava's back, accompanied by a brilliant light. All three people in the house were affected, and Ava fainted again. When she woke up, the first person she saw was Father Vincent. He decided to tell her about the origin of the Holy Halo. In Kova, there was a brave warrior named Arala who fought in the name of God during the first Eastern expedition of the 14th Army Corps. She fought bravely and was severely wounded, so God sent the angel Adriel to remove his angelic halo and give it to Arala. Adriel also gave her the sword and shield he carried with him. Father Vincent also told Ava that the warrior nuns would fight against ancient evil forces. The halo behind Ava would give her the yin-yang eyes, allowing her to see things that ordinary people couldn't. She could not only hunt demons, but also destroy them. Father Vincent wanted Ava to join the ranks of the warrior nuns. However, she didn't want to join. But before Ava learned to control the power of the halo, Father Vincent wouldn't let her leave the convent. Otherwise, it would be very dangerous for her and those around her. At this time, Mary was interrogating Mark Reddy on a cliff with her handgun. Facing death, he was very cooperative, telling her everything he knew. He said the person behind this incident was not ARQ Tech. Based on speculation, there was another person behind it. Mary assessed from the information Mark Reddy gave that the opponent's goal was to take Shannon's life. After Mary finished her questions, she didn't give Mark a chance to leave. In the control room of ARQ Tech, Dr. Salvius and Christian were watching the surveillance footage. In the video, they saw a scene he couldn't understand. They believed all of this was related to Cardinal DiTi. Dr. Salvius thought Ava was the key to the whole affair and wanted to find her. At this time, Cardinal DiTi was talking to Father Vincent about ARQ Tech using divinium to build machines. He believed Shannon's death was related to this technology. Father Vincent also told the Cardinal about Ava. So, he suggested training Ava to become a warrior nun. But he only gave the priest and Ava one chance. So Ava began her first training course. She was trained by the Mother Superion of the convent and Sister Lilith, who always wanted to get the halo back from her body. Out of respect for Shannon, most of the nuns didn't accept Ava. She also couldn't accept her current life and the nuns. Moreover, she had no intention of becoming a warrior nun. Mother Superion approached Father Vincent and said Ava was not worthy of being the halo bearer, but Father Vincent insisted that the halo had chosen Ava. It was all God's choice. Mother Superion couldn't be persuaded and said she would not be gentle with Ava during training. When Father Vincent was free, He read about the legend of Arala with Ava. As for JC and his gang, they had moved to a villa with a beautiful view. They would stay in this villa for a few weeks, but when they entered, they saw Salvius waiting there. She had thoroughly investigated JC's gang. In order to find Ava, she started making things difficult for them. In the convent, Ava saw Ariala's sword. Being near the halo, it was immediately activated. Lilith told Ava that when it was activated, it would become more powerful. That was the key to defeating evil forces. It could also harm her. Just as Lilith was explaining some things to Ava, a terrible sound came from the room. Lilith said it was a demon coming and handed the sword to Ava. However, she was scared and phased through the wall to escape. At this moment, Ava saw Mother Superion nearby. It turned out to be a test arranged by her. The terrible sound was played by Lilith through a small speaker. Ava's act of leaving her teammate behind made Mother Superion even more convinced she was unworthy of being a warrior nun. She also revealed that Ava had previously committed suicide. In Catholicism, suicide is unforgivable. Mother Superion also mentioned many sad things from Ava's past. The distrust and accusations made Ava extremely angry and heartbroken. Fortunately, Father Vincent arrived in time to stop Mother Superion. That night, Beatrice also came to comfort Ava. She believed Ava didn't commit suicide. Beatrice's words brought Ava some relief. They seemed to become friends from that moment on. Mary was different from the other nuns. She was relentlessly investigating the person behind their attack on her own. Father Vincent didn't stop Mary, just hoped she would resolve the issue quickly. That night, Ava still decided to leave the convent. Before she left a note for Father Vincent, with just one sentence: "I want to live." It seems that after being reborn, she was truly afraid of death. Ava had just escaped from the convent and was wandering the street. It seemed she was in a good mood. Ava planned to find JC and his gang. As Ava was still looking forward to her wonderful future life, a cold wind suddenly appeared. Ava actually saw the sign of a demon. It followed a girl into an alley, and another man followed. At this time, Ava was struggling internally, not knowing whether to interfere in this matter. Before long, she followed them into the alley. She quickly saw the man trying to hit the girl. She stepped forward to stop him, and a few more girls appeared around them. They knocked the man down, and Ava also became a victim. It turned out these girls were looking for trouble with this man, and Ava was stabbed in the stomach by one of them. At this moment, she felt terrible about being a hero. The next day, Ava went to a beautiful beach. Before long, she met JC at the new villa. JC told Ava that Salvius was looking for her and threatening everyone. JC thought she was the one who had caused them trouble, so he didn't want Ava to join them anymore. Soon, they started arguing until Ava unleashed her superpowers. She nearly destroyed the villa. She went outside, leaving everyone staring blankly at the cracked walls around them. In the lab at ARQ Tech, Salvius was trying every way to make the shield glow, but it was clear she couldn't do it without Ava. On this side, Cardinal DiTi had convened a meeting with all the nuns. He told everyone that the church was now at war and the enemy was Salvius. The Cardinal suspected that Salvius was destroying the shield to get the production equipment quickly. This was blasphemy against God, so DiTi asked the nuns to retrieve the holy relic. Afterwards, he also met with Sister Lilith privately. Knowing that she was willing to be the next halo bearer, he asked her to find Ava at all costs. At this time, Mary found a piece of cloth attached to the wall in the room where Shannon lived. This meant there was a clue in her bedroom. Mary secretly told Father Vincent what she had just discovered. She believed Shannon had a premonition that someone would attack her, so she left important information in that clue. Mary suggested breaking down the wall of the darkroom to find a message left behind, but Vincent thought they should remain quiet at this stage. Find Ava first and let her phase into that room. At a seaport, JC found her. Ava apologized to him for messing up the group's life. She said she would never come back to disturb their lives again. But at this moment, JC decided to leave his friends to be with Ava. Just like that, they ran off into the distance hand in hand. But what they didn't notice was a car secretly following them. Outside the ARQ Tech company, the nuns arrived, observing their surroundings. Sister Camilla couldn't understand why the Cardinal had actually sent them to break into a private enterprise. Although all of this was for Divinium, it wasn't something the nuns should be doing. Beatrice also agreed with her. Their actions violated the principles of the Order of the Cruciform Sword, but Lilith believed it was time for a change. Overall, the nuns were not on the same page for this operation. Soon after, the nuns took action. They climbed over the metal fence very neatly. At the airport, JC and Ava were thinking about which city to go to. Ava remembered that one of her friends would be in danger. It turned out that Ava's death was caused by the old nun at the orphanage who had injected her with too much sleeping medication. The same thing could happen to the boy who lived with her. Ava needed to carry out a rescue before leaving here. At this moment, the people following them had informed Dr. Salvius of Ava's whereabouts. On the nun side at ARQ Tech, they also learned through the security staff's internal communication system that Ava was currently at the orphanage. After Lilith heard about Ava, she quickly set off with a few others. The remaining nuns worked closely together and entered ARQ Tech smoothly. But when the lab door was opened, it also triggered the alarm system. To reduce the risk of secrets being exposed, Beatrice asked Camila and the other sisters to return to the convent first. She could do the rest herself. After dealing with the guards, she broke down the door gently. Here, she found the divinium shield and brought it back to the convent. Over here, Ava found the old nun in the room where she used to live. It seemed the old nun was about to kill the young boy. Ava immediately stepped forward to stop her. The nun was very surprised that she was still alive. It seems that the last time Father Vincent came to check Ava's records, he didn't tell the old nun about her resurrection. The old nun often poisoned disabled orphans whom she believed couldn't survive on their own. Ava was one of them. After all these years, the number of children she had taken the lives of was impossible to remember. At this moment, she still thought she was just freeing them from their pain. The crazy old nun injected the poison needle into Ava again, but with the help of the halo, she quickly regained her senses and fought back. However, Ava accidentally broke the old nun's neck with just one move. On the ARQ Tech side, Salvius was very surprised to see the amazing abilities of a nun. She could single-handedly confront a group of security guards. So she decided to buy the late Mark Reddy's security company under a false name, because she thought they needed a real army now. At this time, Beatrice handed the shield to Cardinal Duretti. It turned out the real name of this shield was the Shield of Faith. The Cardinal was sure there would be other holy relics, but Beatrice said Salvius had melted it down to build a portal. This made Duretti suspect whether Salvius was trying to open the gates of hell. At the orphanage, Ava was extremely distraught after killing for the first time. As she walked out the door, she saw Lilith. Ava thought she would take her back to the convent, but this time Lilith wanted to take the halo, so she drew her sword to fight. Of course, Ava had no intention of joining this battle. As a result, Lilith struck her down with Ariala's sword. Lilith really wanted to take back the halo. Luckily, Mary appeared in time to stop her decisive blow. While the two of them were confronting each other, Ava took the opportunity to escape. Very quickly, she reached the airport. Unexpectedly, JC was still waiting for her there all night. The two decided to board a passenger ship to Morocco. When Mary and Lilith arrived at the port, Ava's ship had already set sail. At the ARQ Tech press conference, Dr. Salvius was demonstrating the quantum portal again. She said that on the other side of the portal was heaven. She also showed the media surveillance video of Beatrice breaking into the company to retrieve the shield. Salvius called on the Holy See to end all hostile activities because she was not the enemy. She wanted to prove to the Holy See that heaven is real. Over here, Duretti thought this was a public declaration of war by Salvius against the Holy See. He believed the so-called quantum portal did not lead to heaven. Then he wanted to take the shield to the Vatican for safekeeping. But Vincent retorted that the shield was always safe here because the warrior nuns had been entrusted with guarding divinium for centuries. But Duretti threatened him. Accept it or leave his position. On the ship, Ava told JC about her life experiences, but she didn't mention the halo that brought her back from the dead. Over here, Beatrice still didn't understand why Vincent didn't want to hand the shield over to Cardinal Duretti. He believed the shield and Salvius were both tools of Cardinal Duretti to sow division among them, causing the warrior nuns to stray further from their mission. It would surely cause the Order of the Cruciform Sword to retreat. Focusing on dealing with Salvius was against the Order's purpose, as their mission was to deal with the demons of hell. However, the Shield of Faith was still transported away under the supervision of Cardinal Duretti. At this time, Ava and JC had reached their destination, but Mary and Lilith were already waiting at the security checkpoint for Ava to appear. Who knew that Ava and JC didn't get off the ship at all, but were instead in the bathroom playing peek-boo. At the same time, Father Vincent came to Dr. Salvius's office with peace. He said he was willing to help her get back the Shield of Faith on the condition that she stop the war against the church and let Ava go. Salvius didn't understand why Father Vincent would do that, so he said their enemy was the devil from hell, not a person like her. Soon after, Salvius's people verified that Father Vincent's information was correct, as they had retrieved the Shield of Faith. She also concluded that there was chaos in the church. Over here, Ava and JC successfully stowed away, returning by boat. Mary and Lilith also got on and started fighting again. So the two of them had another fight where neither would give in. After a fierce match, Mary successfully handcuffed Lilith. Soon after, Mary found Ava. She immediately told Ava to say goodbye to JC and leave with her before Lilith returned. But by this time, Lilith had escaped from the handcuffs. As soon as the ship docked, she quickly told JC to run. Over here, Lilith found Mary again. She persuaded Mary to give Ava some time to say goodbye to her boyfriend, but she happened to see Ava running away, so the two had to chase after her immediately. While passing through security, Mary was unexpectedly stopped. Meanwhile, Lilith chased Ava and JC to a warehouse. She knocked JC out with a single punch. Soon, she had subdued Ava once again. Then, Lilith didn't hesitate to plunge the knife into the halo on her back. At the critical moment, Mary appeared in time again, saving Ava. The Tarask arrived to join the chaos. First, it gently defeated Mary. Before Lilith could draw her sword, it didn't even bother with her. The Tarask directly flung a car towards Ava, then slowly approached her. When Mary woke up, she immediately opened fire on it, but it didn't have much effect as the Tarask was getting closer and closer to Ava. At this moment, Lilith rushed forward, using her body to block its stabbing blade. With her last breath, she asked Ava to pick up the sword. As soon as she held the sword, she swung it, sending the Tarask back to hell. However, Lilith was also taken by it. Immediately after, Ava fled again, and this time, she left JC behind. After that, Mary slowly dragged her injured leg, continuing to search for her. She used the only money she had to draw a sketch of Ava, then used it to ask passersby about her whereabouts. Luckily, two old Italian men had seen her heading towards the mountains. So Mary found her in the mountains, but Ava told Mary to stay away from her. Mary said she was just afraid she would do something stupid, and also reminded Ava that she had forgotten about JC, who was stunned with fear. While sitting on the cliff, Ava still didn't understand why they wouldn't let her live like a normal person. However, Mary said nothing and kicked her directly off the cliff. A moment later, only Ava's furious screams could be heard. Night fell. In a cave, Mary was grilling meat. When she saw the divinium dagger glowing blue, she knew Ava had returned. The kick before was Mary's way of reminding Ava of her difference. Afterwards, she obediently sat and listened to Mary tell the story of how she became a warrior nun. It turned out Mary wasn't really a nun. That's why she was so different. When she was 8, she shot her father to fight against domestic violence. The father died, but her mother went to prison for life. Until Mary attended a Catholic boarding school, Father Vincent saw her and was determined to raise her. But she never truly became a nun. The next day, the two went to a small town in the mountains. The houses in the town were built very specially. But something terrible had happened in this beautiful town. Last year, there was a major demon outbreak here. It was the warrior nuns who rescued the town's residents. Therefore, the townspeople were very happy to see Mary arrive. She took Ava to eat at her favorite restaurant. The restaurant owner's wife was a victim of last year's demon outbreak. The two walked around the town. Mary told Ava that the Pope was about to die. Although the Holy See had concealed this matter, there was someone in Father Vincent's church. Ava didn't understand why Mary mentioned this. Mary had to explain it was related to Cardinal Duretti. Because the Pope was about to die, Duretti needed to consolidate his power. He needed a warrior nun who would be loyal to him. So Mary would return to the convent, pretending she had never seen Ava. She also didn't forget to warn Ava to be careful, as many people were looking for her. Then the two went to the town's Catholic church. The priest here had once been possessed by a demon, so he was very familiar with Mary. He said Shannon had come here a few months ago. He felt that Shannon had been betrayed by something or someone. The next day, at a small town restaurant, Ava saw a man possessed by a demon walking out of the restaurant. When Mary saw her staring at a stranger, she had a bad feeling. They immediately followed the man out of the restaurant and to a butcher shop. Mary quickly evacuated the customers and staff. When the demon knew he was exposed, the possessed man's eyes immediately turned black. He instantly knocked down Mary, who was standing in front of him, and took the opportunity to escape. However, he was blocked by a locked door. Mary told Ava that to exorcise a demon, you need to drive it out of the host's body first. After a fight, it was indeed driven out of the host's body. Then, Ava killed the demon with just one stab of her divinium dagger. While leaving, the townspeople were worried that another demon would appear. So Mary suggested Ava stay in town for a few more days. If nothing unusual was found, she could go wherever she wanted. Before Mary left, she gave Ava her dagger. Then, in the car, she told Beatrice that Ava would be back. Back at the convent, the nuns were holding a memorial service for Sister Lilith. They prayed for her to go to heaven. Cardinal DiTi arrived with some nuns. They were the ones who had been eliminated during the warrior nun selection process. At this time, Ava went to ARQ Tech to meet Salvius. Thinking Ava was just an ordinary person, she had to pull out her dagger to intimidate the female guard, even stabbing it hard into the reception desk, which frightened the guard. Even Ava was surprised at how powerful this dagger was. Soon after, 2 guards from outside the gate ran over, swinging their batons, but the batons went right through her, and they were thrown 20 meters away by the force. Then another security guard arrived and ran away in fear upon seeing Ava. This commotion quickly attracted Salvius's attention. Immediately, a series of questions were thrown at her. Why could she phase through walls? Or why could she come back from the dead? Salvius only knew that Ava was truly not a normal human being. Ava knew Salvius was curious about her abilities, so this was also the reason Ava took the initiative to meet her. On the training grounds of the convent of the Cruciform Sword, the warrior sisters and the rejects were conducting combat exercises together. On the field were Beatrice and Crimson from the rejected order. Mother Superion and Cardinal DiTi were also there. She thought the rejected candidates shouldn't be there, but DiTi argued that the order was facing new challenges since Lilith's death, so new measures were needed. On this side, Dr. Salvius was conducting an in-depth analysis of Ava. She also didn't hesitate to reveal her abilities. Through analysis, the results led Salvius to believe that the halo was some kind of energy source. It did not follow traditional laws of physics. It seemed to be an object from another world. The halo and divinium were also very different. Ava understood that she had an alien battery on her back. She very much hoped Salvius could develop a way to transfer the energy of the halo in her body to others. This way, others could exorcise demons, and she would become a normal person. At this time, Beatrice received notice that DiTi was transferring her to a church in Malaysia. So Mother Superion and Vincent were discussing this matter. Even Father Vincent received orders to transfer to Florida. So Beatrice and Father Vincent wanted to persuade Mother Superion to fight against DiTi's orders, but she did not agree. On this side, Salvius was pretending to help Ava conduct tests on the transfer and control of the Holy Halo's energy. In reality, she wanted to use this power to energize the quantum portal. During the experiment, Salvius repeatedly asked Ava to increase the energy output. However, the first test was still unsuccessful. She immediately started a second test. This time, the increase in power caused Ava immense suffering. She asked to stop the test, but Salvius wouldn't allow it. Until Ava pulled the connection cord from her back, she phased down to the lower floor. It was then that she saw the quantum portal here and also realized that Salvius was just using her. So she reluctantly told the truth, taking Ava to her son's room. The boy Ava saw at the press conference was her son. When Ava approached Michael, the light spots on Michael's body emitted a light similar to divinium. From the beginning, Salvius shouldn't have had children because she was infertile, but out of a desire for a child, she researched editing her DNA to get the results she has now. And Michael had a never-before-seen blood disease. Divinium could prolong his life, but still couldn't cure him. Salvius believed in the existence of parallel worlds, so she wanted to take herself and her son through the quantum portal to a world where they could both live long lives. But at this point, Salvius also realized the halo in Ava's body couldn't activate the quantum portal, and she was not the one to tell Ava the secret about it. Before leaving, Beatrice handed her weapons to Camilla. At this time, Mary found Beatrice and Father Vincent, telling them about her plan. She wanted to go into Shannon's room before leaving the convent. Both Beatrice and Father Vincent disagreed with her plan. So Mary said there was evidence in the darkroom that DiTi had killed Shannon. Hearing this, Father Vincent left without a word. Beatrice had to tell Mary the way to sneak into the room, but she would not go with her. At this time, Ava had returned to the convent. She felt a little different from the atmosphere when she left. Mary suddenly appeared from the shadows, pulling Ava to a corner. Then, the two followed the route that Beatrice had shown them. When they arrived, Ava phased through the wall into the darkroom. There was only one table in the darkroom. On the table was a book and an artifact created with divinium. Ava quickly flipped open the book to read. Inside, it recorded the revenge of all the gods and the secret that Shannon had spoken of. Meanwhile, Mary was suddenly attacked from behind by Crimson. When Ava walked out of the darkroom, she saw the two clashing. After knocking Mary to the ground, Crimson didn't hesitate to attack Ava. Just then, Beatrice suddenly appeared and stopped her. Crimson was no match for her, so she reluctantly stopped. But she happened to pick up Mary's gun, aiming it at Ava. Seeing this, Ava emitted a wave of energy that sent her and the bullets flying. However, Ava also fainted after hitting the stairs. Mary and Beatrice immediately took her and left the convent, but some armed nuns stopped them. At the critical moment, Camilla came to their rescue with a rifle. Father Vincent was also waiting for everyone outside. After escaping danger, Mary looked through the book Ava brought back from the darkroom. It contained an astonishing secret. At the center of the Vatican, there was a secret, a power that could bind demons to the human world. At this time, Mother Superion had gone to the Vatican for an audience with the Pope, hoping that the Pope could stop everything DiTi had done in her convent. But she didn't expect him to have come here as well. He told Mother Superion that the Pope was already dead. On this side, Lilith suddenly stepped out of a ball of light. Unbelievable, she had actually returned from hell. From the book, they learned the story of the angel Adriel. Arala was the first warrior nun to establish the Order of the Cruciform Sword, calling on those willing to dedicate themselves to teaching for their beliefs, and a woman who didn't care about her own safety. The angel Adriel was very proud of Arala, but after giving her the halo, Adriel had to live as a mortal and die as a mortal. His remains were placed in a tomb of honor in the center of the ancient city of the dead's necropolis. For decades, people felt a great power radiating from Adriel's tomb. It became a place of pilgrimage. Some brought the dying to be healed. Others felt a surge of power that helped them defeat their enemies. The power from the tomb could be used for good or evil. The reputation of the necropolis had long become legendary until the nuns decided that this otherworldly force was too strong for ordinary people to bear. Adriel's remains were locked in a giant stone tomb. As time passed, the tomb was forgotten until a new city grew here. Shannon also wrote in the book that the supernatural energy of the angel's bones could control demons. It was this energy that tightly bound demons to the human world. Father Vincent had also heard about this, to make people dependent on the church by keeping the demon in the world. As long as there was darkness in the world, people would turn to the church. The walls of Adriel's tomb were very thick. No one could break in except a warrior with the halo who could phase through walls. Mary thought if Cardinal DiTi became pope, he could order the halo bearer to enter the tomb and take that power. DiTi had now driven out all who were not loyal to him. This was also the best proof of this theory. Only the one with Adriel's remains could control demons. That person would become the king of demons. So they decided to get Adriel's remains before DiTi could get the power. Ava thought of someone who could help them, Salvius. So they went to Erupts. Seeing Ava return with 4 people, the female security guard quickly informed Salvius. She heard they were trying to break into the church, which further proved the conflict between them and the church. So Salvius wanted to know why they had to do it. Ava then said, if she could get the energy from Adriel's remains, she could help her open the quantum portal. Hearing this, Salvius immediately agreed. Afterwards, Ava began practicing phasing through walls with Beatrice's help. As an archivist who had served at the Holy See for over 30 years, Christian would take on the task of finding the exact location of Adriel's tomb. He quickly used his computer to map out some catacombs under the Vatican. Due to the large number of catacombs here, researchers could only identify 37% of the tombs, but Adriel's tomb was not among them. Christian said that after the Vatican was built, the Medici family hired people to map the necropolis. Perhaps they could use that map to locate the necropolis. But that map had been loaned out decades ago and was stolen. To find that map, they had to make a trip to the black market. Afterwards, he and Mary drove to a private villa to find someone with a super memory to help. Ava was still practicing phasing through walls with Beatrice's help, but she realized that the more she did it, the harder it was to move forward. Salvius said it was because the halo in her body was running out of energy. If she lost energy inside the wall, the result could be imagined. To successfully pass through the 6-meter thick tombstone, they needed more energy. While they were still arguing, Lilith opened the door, walked in, and fainted immediately. Salvius conducted an examination of her condition. They found that Lilith's body was only dehydrated and everything else was normal. Camilla couldn't believe it, because they had just held a funeral for Lilith and now she was back. She only remembered the event at the warehouse. After Ava swung her sword and struck the Tarask, she remembered nothing else. The wound from the Tarask stab had become a circular scar. Seeing this, Camilla believed that Lilith had also received a second life from God. The person Father Vincent was looking for seemed to be afraid of him. He didn't want to reveal the buyer's identity, but was still overwhelmed by fear. Mary just watched quietly because she knew she didn't need to act. Father Vincent seemed completely different from the person she once knew. Before long, they found the person with the map. This time, with the help of Mary's handgun, they got it. On the way back, Father Vincent told the story of his past before becoming a priest. It turned out he used to transport drugs for a syndicate when he was young. Because of his strong abilities, he was quickly selected and trained to be an assassin, until he believed in God and joined the order. With the map of the necropolis drawn by the Medici family, Christian quickly found Adriel's tomb. In a dream, Ava saw Shannon. She said that in the book she left, there were many records of the actions of the Halo bearers, but their stories were very short because they all died young. In her conversation with Shannon, Ava seemed to understand something. Why were there so many demons in the world? It was all because of Adriel's remorse. So Ava wanted to destroy his remains, and there would be no more demons in the world. It wasn't necessary for every warrior nun to sacrifice herself for this. The next day, Ava also disguised herself as a nun. Mary, Camilla, Beatrice, and Father Vincent also wore their clerical attire to Adriel's tomb. Then, everyone gathered so that Ava could phase through the wall and open the door from the inside. Currently, Ava and the others' infiltration was going smoothly. Everyone entered the surveillance room of the entire Holy See for the first time. The guards of the Curio would be there in 30 minutes for their rotation. It was best to solve the problem within 26 minutes. In the control room of the Architect, Salvius and Christian discovered that Lilith could travel through space, and her method of travel was very similar to that of the Tarask. This aroused their curiosity. Salvius immediately went to see if she was still there under the pretext of checking her physical condition. However, the doctor's special care made Lilith uncomfortable. On the floor of the medical office, Salvius saw scales falling from the wound where Lilith was stabbed by the Tarask a few days ago. She immediately went back to the room to conduct a test. She discovered that the scales falling from Lilith's wound also had self-healing capabilities. On this side, the cardinals were electing a new pope. As DiTi was filling out his ballot, he noticed the ring on his hand glowing. Immediately, he sent a notice to his loyal soldiers to find Ava. Finally, they quickly found Ava preparing to enter Adriel's tomb. A fight between them quickly began. After all, DiTi's nuns were numerous, and Ava's group only had a few people, so they couldn't eliminate those nuns in a short time. Suddenly, at this moment, Mother Superion appeared. She helped Ava and the others push back the nuns loyal to the cardinal. Then Ava accidentally discovered the scar on her back. This circular scar proved that she was once a halo bearer, but for a very short time because Mother Superion had rejected it. This was also the pain she had always kept in her heart. She had realized her past mistake and began to support Ava. Outside St. Peter's Basilica, many devout followers were praying and waiting. When a plume of smoke escaped from the chimney, the followers knew that a new pope had been elected. At this time, Lilith happened to walk into Michael's room. Michael seemed to know Lilith's true identity and said that it was too late. Ava was about to reach the tomb's door. Hearing what Michael said, Lilith disappeared immediately. At this time, Ava and Beatrice had reached the stone with the warning sign not to disturb the dead. This was exactly what Shannon had recorded in the book. Very quickly, Lilith arrived before the tomb's door, blocking Ava's entry. She even shouted that Ava would be a danger to everyone. It was Mary's timely appearance that controlled and awakened Lilith's consciousness. Only then did she return to normal. Taking that opportunity, Ava stepped into the stone before Adriel's tomb. Inside the stones, Ava discovered Tarask bones made from divinium. It didn't take long for her to phase through the stones and enter the tomb. But to her surprise, Adriel was still alive in front of her. At the same time, the bells of St. Peter's Basilica rang. Countless believers were waiting outside the church door. A new pope had been elected, and DiTi was actually elected as the new pope. As for Ava, she was still confronting Adriel in the tomb. She just quietly watched a god babbling in front of her. It turned out Adriel was just waiting for this day for the halo bearer to come to him. When he called Ava's name, it immediately lit up. Ava couldn't understand how Adriel, who had been trapped here for over 1,000 years, knew her name. At this moment, he said he had been tricked and imprisoned here by Arala. She was the first halo bearer. The truth was that Arala had stolen it from Adriel. Pope Urban II knew about her abilities and plotted to take the power for himself. Therefore, Adriel became a target for elimination, but they soon realized he couldn't be destroyed in the mortal world. So they built this tomb for him. Finally, Ava was persuaded to believe what Adriel said. She was willing to hand over the halo to him. That way, there would be no more shameful sacrifices of the warrior nuns. When Adriel touched her shoulder, his thousands of years of visions appeared in her mind. At the same time, Salvius was watching the surveillance video to study the reason for Lilith's disappearance. When she switched the surveillance to her son's room, she found the boy tearing the medical equipment off his body. She immediately went to her son's room to ask for the reason. Michael said that someone was calling him to go to the quantum portal. Although Salvius didn't understand why her son wanted to go to the portal, she still agreed. When Christian entered Michael's room, he saw strange drawings on the wall. He seemed to have understood something. On this side, Mary and the others outside were anxiously waiting for Ava. She had been in the tomb for 10 minutes, so she had exceeded the planned time. Lilith had dug a hole in the stone to use explosives to blow it up, but once it exploded, all the guards would be alerted. They could only rearrange their plan. In the story, Ava realized that Adriel might not be telling the truth. She took the initiative to touch his hand to let everything replay in her mind. Clearly, Arala and her people had fought bravely against the enemy. Unfortunately, she was struck in a vital spot by the enemy. All the warriors protected her. Just then, Adriel appeared in the air. Everyone present knelt before him, thinking he was a god. Even the Tarask followed to capture Adriel. When Adriel fled, the Tarask teleported to block his path. Unable to escape, he tried to fight back with the halo, managing to destroy the Tarask. But the gate of hell was about to open, bringing another Tarask. In desperation, Adriel attached the halo to Ariala's back. Then the gate of hell gradually shrank until it disappeared. When she woke up, Arala saw Adriel melting the Tarask bones, forging the sword and the shield of faith. It turned out the divinium sword was not his. Then he began to threaten Arala, calling himself a god. Otherwise, the halo in her body would be taken away. Ava knew the truth and naturally refused to hand over the halo to Adriel. With the truth exposed, he began to snatch the halo, hooking his hand through Ava. This caused the quantum portal to miraculously activate. Michael struggled free from Salvius and jumped inside. Seeing this, she also immediately jumped in. At this moment, Ava activated the survival power in her body, flinging Adriel away. The quantum portal also immediately closed, preventing Salvius from following her son. Outside the tomb, everyone also felt the tremor, so they took the opportunity to detonate the explosives immediately. At this moment, DiTi was standing on the balcony, waving to tens of thousands of followers. But when the explosives were detonated, the ground in St. Peter's Square immediately collapsed over a large area. Through it, Beatrice and Mary soon entered the tomb and found Ava. Beatrice also saw Adriel reaching out from amidst the rubble, but they had to get Ava out of the tomb first. On this side, DiTi was very puzzled by Mother Superion beside him. What is happening? She didn't care and said he would be the shortest reigning pope in history, because Father Vincent and the nuns had discovered his crimes and motives. It was DiTi who killed Shannon. However, at this moment, he still put on an innocent face as if he knew nothing. At this time, Ava's group had escaped from the tomb. She quickly told everyone what had happened inside. Adriel was not an angel, but a demon. Before everyone could understand what was happening, he had already rushed out. Father Vincent took the initiative to approach Adriel and called him God. It turned out that Vincent had planned all of this to help him escape, then go through the portal created by Salvius to return Adriel to hell. After hearing a few whispers from him, Vincent's eyes filled with tears. It turned out Vincent had really deceived everyone, and he was the one who had killed Shannon. At this time, Lilith wanted to fight Adriel in a one-on-one battle. However, he still easily defeated her with a single blow. Seeing this, everyone rushed up to attack him together. In just a few blows, Adriel was knocked to the ground. They thought Adriel was dead this time because Camilla had shot an arrow into his head. But just as they left, he pulled the arrow out of his head and slowly stood up. He said that he couldn't be killed in this world. The nuns also said they already knew. It turned out they were just stalling for time for Ava to recharge the halo's power. Soon after, she walked out, holding the sword made from the Tarask's bones. Seeing this, Adriel summoned more than a dozen demons, manipulating the people around to attack the nuns. Meanwhile, Father Vincent had vanished without a trace. After Ava and Beatrice escaped, they worked in a bar in Switzerland. But both of them did not forget their mission, still training diligently every day. She really wanted to maximize the power of the halo. However, things were always worse than the last time. The training session ended, and the two talked again about the battle from over 2 months ago. Ava couldn't let this go. After all, she had been used, which led to Adriel's release. He also killed everyone's best friend, Mary. The hatred made it impossible for her to concentrate on her training. And Ava wasn't the only one living in pain. Vincent, once the most trusted, had betrayed the order of the cruciform sword, so Lilith never gave up on hunting him down. Finally, she found the fugitive in Portugal. After a few blows, Lilith extended her claws. Terrified, Vincent quickly said that Mary was not dead. Instead, she was being held captive by Adriel. Under his guidance, Lilith went to a church, supposedly where Mary was imprisoned. The two walked through a long corridor to a gate. Vincent said Mary was here. Worried about her friend's safety, Lilith didn't even realize it was a trap. Seeing that she was imprisoned by him, Vincent finally told the truth. It turned out he intentionally let Lilith find him because Lilith possessed power from another world, so she needed to be imprisoned. This was something Adriel had long coveted. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of people appeared from behind. But these ordinary people naturally couldn't stop the enraged Lilith. And so, a massacre began. Ever since destroying the Order of the Cruciform Sword in the Vatican, Adriel had cloaked himself in the guise of an angel, creating something like a mist with his divine power, instantly healing everyone. Such miracles won him countless devoted fans. But there were also some who remained cool-headed and formed an organization called the Samaritans to oppose the cult, but their power was really weak, more like a book club. Miguel was a regular customer at the bar and also one of them. This made Ava and Beatrice quite interested in him. At his kind invitation, they both attended a party. The two hadn't relaxed for a long time, so they partied hard together. But on the way back, they saw Miguel acting suspiciously. Ava hurried after him and found him surrounded by some thugs. Immediately, Ava stepped forward and took down one guy with a series of moves. But unexpectedly, the opponent didn't know martial arts and wanted a sneak attack from behind. However, the iron pipe he swung only passed through her body, stunning the young man Miguel. At this moment, Beatrice also rushed out from the side. The two of them worked together to eliminate all these thugs in an instant. Having revealed their skills, the two quickly left. But Miguel said that tonight there was a party for Adriel's followers. He was monitoring the situation when he ran into these thugs on the way. After hearing this, Ava wanted to go with him to investigate. Perhaps they could get some evidence. At this time, Pope Duretti was also very worried. Because Adriel frequently demonstrated his magical skills, he was gaining a large number of followers. This even threatened his own position. That day, a nun named Yasmin came, lying about being a scholar. She wanted to conduct an interview, but all she asked was about the Pope's attitude towards Adriel. So, this interview, of course, ended on bad terms. But what he didn't know was that Yasmin's phone had been implanted with tracking software during the interview. That night, Duretti contacted Mother Superion to ask about the current situation, but the conversation between the two was immediately exposed on Yasmin's computer. By the time Camila and Mother Superion came out of the basement, they were surprised to see the church littered with dead bodies. The two dared not delay, quickly returned to the basement, and sent a warning to the other outposts of the Order of the Cruciform Sword. But the lights in front of them went out one by one. This meant that the Order of the Cruciform Sword was suffering a devastating blow. At the same time, besides Adriel, who could have such power, the two immediately prepared to evacuate to preserve the last secrets. But then Camila saw the last remaining light spot on the map. It came from the Madrid branch. They didn't know if there were survivors or if a trap was waiting for them there. A large swarm of locusts suddenly appeared in the city center. This frightened the passers-by. But just as the scene became chaotic, a man's voice was heard. Then, this holy man walked directly on water. Such a miraculous scene naturally spread quickly on the internet. Watching Adriel disguised as God on TV, Pope Duretti was extremely worried. His power and followers were being taken away by this demon. Even some of his bishops began to waver. They were considering whether to cooperate with Adriel, wanting to make Adriel the spokesperson for the church to consolidate the Pope's rule. But this proposal was flatly rejected by Duretti. Unexpectedly, Adriel came to him in person, and his purpose was to join forces with the Pope because he had the ability to make all faithful people around the world become Catholic followers. At that time, they would become a supreme being in the eyes of the people. But Duretti's mind was still clear. He could not accept this offer. Adriel retorted that for the past 1,000 years, the Catholic Church had used his power, housed in this very building, as a divine battery for fuel. Therefore, Adriel believed the Pope needed to repay this debt. On this side, Miguel brought some interesting news. The Samaritans had actually captured a core follower of Adriel. After hearing this, Ava hurried to go with Beatrice. But Ava became more and more curious about the background of this organization that kidnapped people in broad daylight. This was not something ordinary people could do. However, they couldn't care too much. Very quickly, the two arrived at their destination. Seeing a red smoke cloud coming out of the head of the man who was hanging, Ava knew she was on the right side now. And the other person clearly knew Ava too. He even asked her to hand over the halo and return it to Adriel. This made Miguel on the side look confused. Fearing her identity would be exposed, Beatrice stepped forward and struck the man's neck, but this also completely enraged the demon inside. He used all his strength to break free from the rope and attacked Beatrice. The demon in front of them had incredible fighting strength. He not only knocked out Miguel with a single punch, even Ava was no match. Seeing she was at a disadvantage, Ava had to activate the power of the halo. Then a dazzling light emanated from behind her. With just one blow, she was able to knock down the demon. Next came a storm of fists greeting his face. The demon was immortal, so it quickly left the body and escaped. But Ava didn't give it that chance. She unleashed a burst of power that turned the demon to dust. But this time, she had completely exposed her abilities. Beatrice had no choice but to pull Ava and leave in a hurry. At this time, Mother Superion and Camila had arrived in Spain. Very quickly, they reached the Madrid branch of the Order of the Cruciform Sword, but the place was in a mess, as if it had just been attacked. At this moment, the nun Yasmin suddenly appeared. Her family was founded by ancient warrior nuns. They had protected a secret for generations. It was the way to stop Adriel, and this secret could only be told to the current generation of the Halo Bearer by her own mouth. The current one was Ava. Yasmin had lit the signal for the Order's branch in Madrid, wanting to contact the Halo Bearer through people from the Order of the Cruciform Sword. Looking at the corpses all over the ground, Mother Superion mourned for everyone with a heavy heart. The Order of the Cruciform Sword had suffered heavy losses. The remaining strength was simply not enough to fight Adriel. Now, the two had no choice but to trust Yasmin. On this side, Lilith went through a fierce battle, covered in blood. She used her teleportation ability to arrive at Dr. Salvius's house. She was very surprised by the silver scales growing on her injured arm. She didn't know how to solve this problem either. At this moment, the necklace beside her suddenly started to flash. It was an emergency summons from the Order of the Cruciform Sword. Ava and Beatrice also received this news. They could take this opportunity to go to Madrid to escape their identities being exposed. But what they didn't know was that Vincent also received this message. Clearly, the owner of the necklace in the priest's hand was Mary's, so this news immediately reached Adriel's ears. At this time, Lilith decided to move through Salvius's quantum portal. It seemed to have actually succeeded, but after only 7 seconds, she was sent back. Salvius was very curious about what happened inside. Unexpectedly, Lilith replied that she had been walking in there for several hours. Then she was sent back by something. Salvius was very surprised because only a few seconds had passed. She decided to check the video camera. Unexpectedly, the video camera had indeed recorded over 100 minutes. She immediately began to analyze it and was completely stunned when she watched the video. A real face had appeared inside. At the same time, Ava and Beatrice became targets as soon as they arrived in Madrid. Just as the two had escaped from 3 people following them at a street corner, the traitor Vincent attacked from behind, knocking Beatrice out with a tranquilizer gun. This angered Ava, causing Vincent to shoot himself in the throat with a tranquilizer dart. She then helped Beatrice to the meeting point. After Yasmin confirmed that Ava was the new group's current leader, she told everyone how to defeat Adriel. That meant finding the Crown of Thorns. The Crown of Thorns could seal his magical powers, thereby temporarily turning him into a normal person. However, the Crown of Thorns was currently in a museum. So the group went to the museum during the day to locate it, conducting surveillance secretly, preparing to act after the museum closed in the evening. At the same time, DiTi had captured the traitorous bishop. The Pope always thought Adriel was behind everything, so he asked how the previous locust plague had been formed. The traitorous bishop was very tough at first, refusing to say anything until the Pope locked him in an iron cage. Facing death, the traitor told the truth. He said it was done through some tech company. Hearing this, DiTi realized something. When night fell, Ava's group went to the museum. She easily obtained the Crown of Thorns, but strangely, it had no reaction to Ava. Everyone immediately contacted Mother Superion, who was sitting in the car outside. When Yasmin entered the museum, she noticed this crown was a fake, but the real one must be nearby. After analyzing, she led everyone to a statue of a nun. Then Ava activated her power to get past the laser alarm device. Sure enough, when she touched the real crown, it lit up. At this moment, Vincent suddenly entered. He quickly snatched the Crown of Thorns and placed it on Ava, causing her to slowly fall. Then he carried her away through the back door. Everyone could only watch helplessly as she was taken away because the door on this side was closed. When Vincent carried Ava outside, he threw her to the ground and then clutched the crown and ran off. Just then, Miguel rushed out from nowhere to stop him. Although Miguel was not good at fighting, he was determined to hold Vincent back. Despite being beaten badly, the young man still managed to get up, then quickly snatched the crown back while Vincent wasn't looking, finally throwing him hard over the staircase railing. When the two heard the alarm siren, they immediately left. On the way, Miguel handed the Crown of Thorns back to Ava. He also told Ava that he had been sent from another dimension. He came to work with her to completely eliminate Adriel. Just then, a group of people in gas masks passed by. Thinking they were Adriel's people, the two quickly followed. On this side, Lilith's arm was covered in blood from teleporting. She had actually found Adriel. After seeing it, he said she was now a new species, even trying to persuade Lilith to follow him. Before Vincent could regain consciousness, he was caught by Camila, put in a car, and finally taken to the outskirts where Mother Super Ion stomped on his injured leg. At this time, Salvius discovered that Christian had surrendered to Adriel and was very disappointed. Back to Ava, they followed the group of people to a cemetery. Hearing the crowd in the church next door, they also snuck in. Upon entering, Ava saw a little girl who was possessed. After the ceremony, someone on stage asked if anyone else wanted to try. Miguel stepped up to be tested. Soon after, a demon entered his body. However, things didn't seem to go according to their script. As Miguel was glowing, he blew out a blue cloud that caused the demon to explode. Miguel and Ava then rushed into battle with Adriel's henchmen, while the townspeople fled in panic out the door. Just then, Beatrice also arrived, so she didn't hesitate to join the riot. It didn't take long for the three of them to quickly defeat the enemy. However, at this moment, the possessed people quickly stood up again. Ava had no choice but to use the power of the halo to stun them once more. Just as they were about to leave, a Tarask slowly appeared in front of them. Before it could attack them, it was torn apart by the demons. Taking that opportunity, Ava activated the halo, preparing to fly out with Beatrice. But just as she took off, her leg was grabbed by the Tarask. Seeing this, Miguel picked up a trident from the ground and threw it, sending it back to hell. Ava only flew for a moment before her power vanished, causing both of them to fall. This wasn't the first time the halo's power had mysteriously disappeared, but they really hadn't found a reason yet. Moreover, who really was Miguel? On this side, Adriel had convinced Lilith to grow a pair of evolved eyes. After a short period of pain, she opened her eyes and saw two demons flying in the air. When she left the house, she saw even more demons. Then, under Adriel's intense manipulation, she actually fell in love with him. At this point, Lilith even grew a pair of black wings from her back. With these wings, she felt a completely new source of power. The next day, everyone decided to go to Salvius's house. However, no matter how many times they called, she wouldn't open the door. Until Miguel said that her son had returned, the door of the house was immediately opened. It turned out Miguel was Michael, who had previously passed through the quantum portal. Reunited with her son, Salvius was overjoyed. At this time, under his real name, Michael also offered an explanation. He had lived there for 15 years. It was Adriel's master, Rhea, who had adopted and trained him, and it was Rhea who had sent him to eliminate Adriel. At this time, Mother Super Ion received a call from the Pope, inviting her to a secret meeting. Very quickly, she and Yasmin went to the location. The topic of the meeting was how to expose and defeat Adriel and the public situation. While discussing the purge of traitors, after Bishop William finished speaking, he stabbed the bishop next to him with a knife. It turned out he had also become one of Adriel's men. Then all the traitors took knives from the table and started killing. What they didn't expect here was that Mother Superion's fighting ability was very strong. After rescuing Yasmin from under the table, the three of them ran to the next room. Mother Super Ion immediately contacted Camila for support. A moment later, Ava's group of three entered the hotel. On the 13th floor, they saw a possessed man banging violently on a door. To avoid a nasty fight, Ava would appear to lure most of the demons away. She stepped out and declared war on Adriel and his followers. Immediately, the whole group fell into the trap they had laid. As a result, the two remaining guards were quickly eliminated by Beatrice and Michael. Hearing that help was coming, Mother Super Ion wanted the Pope to go with them, but he was scared and insisted on staying. On this side, Ava had no way to escape and phased out of the wall. But as soon as she was out, the power of the halo mysteriously vanished again. She fell directly from the 13th floor, hitting the ground hard. This scene was witnessed by everyone who had just come downstairs. Beatrice immediately ran to hug Ava and started crying. But then the halo behind Ava slowly lit up, and she came back to life once more. Upstairs, the Pope was also captured by William and the others. After the Pope was caught, he was officially imprisoned. Adriel forced the Pope to introduce him to the world tomorrow during a live broadcast. Ava and the others were also preparing for tomorrow's live broadcast. Adriel's deceptions and smoke and mirrors had to be exposed, then placed the crown of thorns on Adriel's head and used the quantum portal to send him back to his original world. Why not eliminate him? Because this method was rejected by Ava. Michael had approached Ava earlier, talking about how to completely eliminate Adriel. It meant blowing Adriel up with a divine bomb. This way, his wounds would not heal themselves. The container for that bomb was Michael's own body. It required the power from Ava's halo to detonate it. This could be called a life for a life, so Ava flatly refused this plan, deciding to use the method of sealing Adriel. On the day of the live broadcast, Ava and the others snuck into the venue as planned. The Holy Father stepped before the cameras and gave a speech. Ava also proceeded to place a signal receiver on top of the building. At this moment, Lilith suddenly appeared and attacked her. The two immediately engaged in a duel. However, Ava was clearly less experienced in combat than her opponent. At this time, His Holiness Du-Redi invited Adriel to the stage. But instead of a friendly introduction, he made many accusations against Adriel, just as he wanted to cover his mouth. Ava and Lilith were still fighting fiercely. At this moment, Ava focused and delivered a final blow, sending Lilith flying off the building. Fortunately, the signal receiver was activated just in time. But what they didn't expect was that all the previous disasters, like the swarm of locusts, did not come from Adriel. So he mocked the Pope in front of hundreds of millions of viewers around the world. Just as the Pope retorted, they activated the lightning device. The Pope was struck down as if by a living Buddha before the global audience. Immediately, he became a hot piece of charcoal on the stage. After the shock, Camila used telepathy to affect Adriel. The other members also immediately took action, creating a riot. Meanwhile, Ava tried to place the crown of thorns on him from above. Just as she was about to succeed, Lilith flew in and knocked Ava away. This also woke up the confused Adriel. Michael stepped forward and was grabbed by the neck by him. But when he wasn't looking, he stabbed him straight in the neck with a knife. There was no better chance, so Michael suggested Ava activate the bomb in his body. But as they were about to touch hands, Beatrice rushed in to stop them to protect Ava. At that moment, Vincent also took the crown and ran away. Witnessing all plans fail, everyone began to evacuate. At this time, a nun named Dora in a corner took off her robe, ready to act alone. She rushed out with a pistol and took down countless enemies one by one. After running out of bullets, she quickly switched to hand-to-hand combat. However, this was probably not too big of a problem. After finishing one fight, she helped Beatrice leave. Ava was also teleported to an unknown place by Lilith. What they didn't know was that the base at Salvius's was also under attack. Mother Superion, who was on guard, was shot and killed by Bishop William. The portal was also quickly seized by them. William didn't take Salvius's life because keeping her alive was still useful. It must be said that today Adriel had won on all fronts. In the end, he didn't forget to mock his master, Rhea. Meanwhile, Lilith dropped Ava into a building and then beat her severely. It must be said, she was now a warrior nun with the most incredible strength. Even trying to escape, Ava couldn't get away from her, even being kicked into a sword that pierced through her body. At this point, Lilith began to persuade her to join Adriel's side. But of course, Ava couldn't agree. She was even ready to fight back against Lilith's persistence with the spiky orb in her hand. Thanks to that, Lilith temporarily left, and Ava's wound was also gradually healing. After returning, she found Mother Superion was dead. She was incredibly sad and lay down beside her. At this moment, the power of the halo was unexpectedly activated. Mother Superion gradually opened her eyes and actually came back to life. Even the scar on her face disappeared. Even Ava didn't expect the halo could do this. Since meeting Mother Superion, this was the first time Ava had seen her smile so happily. On the other side, Camila was locked in the church and was being taken to Adriel's baptism. Unexpectedly, Yasmin attacked the escort from behind and rescued her. Then, the two sneakily went up to the top of the church. They were observing Adriel's possessed followers from a distance. Yasmin was so scared she wanted to run, but was persuaded by Camila to stay, then went out to call Mother Superion for support. After receiving the call, she immediately ordered Beatrice to gather the others. Michael again tried to persuade Ava to carry out the plan to detonate the divine bomb. But this time, Ava refused without a second thought. Just as the two were arguing, Ava remembered Vincent taking the crown. So she found Vincent under a bridge. After a few persuasive conversations, he also returned the crown of thorns to Ava. It seemed he now knew Adriel was truly evil. So Ava took him home with her. In their subsequent conversations, they both believed that the crown of thorns could not only make Adriel lose his magic, but there must be something else in it that frightened Adriel. So Ava contacted Adriel through the divinium tattoo on Vincent's body. His appearance in his head caused him immense pain. But then, Ava was also thrown backwards. After seeing Adriel in so much pain, Ava became more convinced of her guess. So she decided to wear the crown to find the answer. In a dark dimension, she saw many Tarasks. While the Tarasks were excited by her appearance, a voice shouted loudly, "Stop!" It turned out to be a woman standing behind the demons. This glowing person was none other than Rhea. Here, Ava learned that Adriel had stolen Rhea's halo and fled. That was the reason the Tarasks appeared, wanting to get it back. After Ava woke up, she immediately organized a meeting for everyone to best prepare to deal with Adriel. After everyone packed up, they set off for the church. With Vincent's help, they passed the security team smoothly. Then everyone met Camila and Yasmin. They had just chatted for a moment when they were discovered by the followers. Ava immediately opened her personal show.
The warriors don't run.
After clearing this wave of enemies, Ava and Beatrice proceeded to the planned location, where Salvius believed they had placed the quantum portal. However, no one saw any portal here. While Beatrice and the others were still in doubt, Ava spoke up, saying this was what she wanted Salvius to do. So she wanted to go to the portal's location herself, instead of having others follow. After saying that, she went down to meet Michael below. It turned out, the two had decided to use the plan to detonate the divine bomb. Before long, they reached the portal and met Adriel. Michael declared that for 1,000 years, he had evaded justice, so his crimes were now over. But before he could get close to Adriel, he was blocked by Lilith, who then immediately pierced his chest to rip out his heart. Ava was also attacked from behind by Lilith. At this moment, the chaos outside was no less intense. Beatrice began to advance alone again, confronting Adriel's followers. Clearly, these people were no match for her. One by one, they were falling. As Yasmin was watching the commotion, she was discovered by William. So she had to confront him herself. But clearly, she was not born to fight. Yasmin took out a knife from her necklace and stabbed his leg. It didn't take long for William to collapse from the stab wound that hit his main artery. At the same time, on Beatrice's side, she had also successfully cleared the area. Once Ava was restrained, Adriel began to open the portal. His purpose was to use his demons to bring Rhea here. Just as Adriel was about to place the crown of thorns on Rhea, Camila once again used brainwaves to cause Adriel pain, making him fall to the ground. Seeing this, Lilith immediately stepped forward to check on the situation. Taking that opportunity, Ava drew the holy sword, preparing to fight. Seeing this, Adriel decided to fight her personally. It could be said that Ava's combat experience was much greater now. However, she was still not Adriel's match. When he was stabbed through the body, Lilith rushed in to support him. As a result, Ava closed her eyes, sensed, and swung a sword that hit her. So the second confrontation between Ava and Adriel began again. At this moment, she saw Michael's body. Therefore, she fought while retreating, luring Adriel closer. When the time was right, she unleashed a burst of power from the halo, creating an explosion. Just when they thought Adriel had been defeated, he slowly stood up. Because as Adriel had said before, he could not be killed in this realm. Ava herself had accidentally forgotten that. At this moment, on the upper floor, Camila's group had blown up the crucifix, draining Adriel's energy. At the same time, the halo on Ava's back regained its initial powerful energy, so she decided to use it to summon 6 Tarasks. Perhaps at this moment, this was the best way. They immediately restrained Adriel with ease. Just like that, he was blown to pieces by the Tarasks. After Adriel disappeared, everyone also came to their senses. Just as the Tarasks were about to attack Ava and the others, Rhea spoke up, telling them to stop, then used her power to reopen the portal, summoning them back. Ava couldn't hold on any longer and collapsed. After waking up, Lilith told her the only way to save Ava now was to take her through that portal. Although Beatrice couldn't accept this, it was currently the only way. Just like that, Ava was carried by the two of them through the portal to another realm. So, the series ends here for now. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave me a channel subscription, and see you again.